So welcome back to another set of tutorials. Thank you so much for all of the support and for your likes and shares on the past tutorials that we've just done. Today I want to focus on a green smoky eye. Now a lot of clients will come in and if I said the word green smoky eye to them, they would think Ninja Turtles and run for the front door. So what I want to do today is to show how the colour green can be something that can be very wearable. And I find that if you work with a strong colour like a green or work with a strong colour like a blue, it's all about what colours you complement it with, that you don't use 5 shades of the one tonality, and then it makes it a little bit more wearable. On Catherine, I have already prepped her skin. So we've done the skincare, we've done Face It Light. All of the products that I've used to bring her up to this point will be listed underneath. So underneath Catherine's eyebrows, I've concealed. So to set that concealer, I'm using Makeup Atelier single eyeshadow in PR07. This is from their refill system, so you can pick and choose which colors you want to build your palette from. So just to set that, I'm using some underneath the brow to set and to hold that concealer in place. Bring it up nice and close to the brow. It's a matte, very warm, sort of ivory shade. And bring that the whole way across. Perfect. Next, I'm going to lift another single from Makeup Atelier, which is called PR102. Again, all of these products will be listed underneath. This is a very, very sort of soft peachy tone. And I'm going to use that as a transitional shade. So looking straight ahead for me, I'm going to bring that through the top section so it blends with the previous colour that I've just put on. Blending right across from the outside colour, from the outside corner right across. Next, I'm going to take this really nice warm sand colour. Again, another Atelier. These are all matte, by the way. And this is PR103. Be careful with this one. It's quite intense, so make sure and take off the excess before you apply on. Again, that's going from the outside corner right across and sitting just beneath. See how it's starting to liven up the previous colours? And just work that. Don't bring it the entire way across because it's a little bit too strong. I want to work it until about halfway, and then when I've worked that in and there's less on my brush, I'll kind of blend it across. So I'm building it almost underneath the eyebrow. But because there's so little on the brush, by the time I reach under the eyebrow, it's nearly faded naturally, rather than having to put it really heavy and then having to work and work and work, and then you're pushing it further towards the nose area. So bring that from the outside to about halfway, work that to that section first, and then pull it across. And you'll find it much easier. I like to use these sort of colours to support. If I'm going to use a colour like a green, I like sort of other complementary colours around it, so that you're not using tons of colours all from the same palette. Next, this matte brown. This is a Makeup Studio single eyeshadow. This one's called 430. It's a really rich chocolatey brown. And again, it's really intense, so work it into your blending brush really well before you start to apply it onto the eye area. And with that, I'm just putting a little bit of stretch on the eye and blending that across the lower lid. I want to make the lid really dark, but I'm building up to the darkness. So I want this to blend into the previous sort of sandstone colour. Blending that all across. And watch when you come into this inner corner. That's the most important bit. Look straight for me, Catherine. See how the natural curve of the eye comes around like this? The eyeshadow needs to follow that curve, or else the darkness is going to go too high and you're going to be quite squared off in the inner corner of the eye. The darkness has to, in my opinion, curve around the shape of the eye. So I like to bring that in to the corner, but I'm kind of pulling it at a half circle motion around, so it looks nice and rounded. Now for the next thing, for the dark base that I want to put across Catherine's lower lid, I'm taking a relatively firm type of brush, flat, and then I'm using some of the Makeup Studio cream black liner. So look at the floor for me. With this particular product, I'm starting right here at the lash line. So start right really close to the lashes and basically go the whole way across in a very thin band right towards the tear duct. Okay, look straight for me. So it almost looks like a really thick band of liner. Then what I'm going to do is, and look straight for me, when you're doing this yourself, from this inner corner here, bring this up. And this is what I was saying to you earlier about making sure that you follow this half circle around the center socket of the eye. It has to curve as you blend around. If this goes up, then that creates it almost like it looks quite dirty looking on the eyes whenever you're blending. It has to go across. And this is just a really quick way of creating a base tone across the whole of the lid of the eyes. So then I'll need very little darkness on top of it then to catch it. It'll also act as a really nice base because I want to use some iridescent shimmer product on top of this in a second as well. Okay, so now we have both sides done. I'm taking a clean flat brush, and again some of the 430 dark brown shadow. We haven't reached its full capacity. I just put a very sheer coat across the eye. So again, work it in with your flat brush. I'm putting a little bit of pressure just here at the start of Catherine's brow, and I'm setting the dark shadow on top of it to set and to hold that. As I'm doing it, I'm kind of pulling ever so slightly around the edges. This will help to soften the edges before I go in with my blending brush. So ever so slightly, I'm pulling it around in that circular motion, so you're bringing everything out the way. And you're taking your time with this. Don't try to do it too fast, because until you get used to the shape of your eye by doing this style of makeup, you don't want it to travel too much. So see how just there, it started to blur the edges of the cream eyeliner. Do that the whole way out. With nothing on my brush, this is a smaller tapered blending brush than the previous one that I used for my transitional colors. I'm just taking the tip of this and continuing to soften my edge like I did before, just so it's nice and soft. It has to blend into those previous colors really easily. So there's nothing on the brush, I'm literally just blurring the edges. Next, I have lifted, this is like a shimmer iridescent. It kind of kicks off a green with a brown tone to it as well. It just depends what way the light hits it. This is from OCC, and yeah, lovely name, it's called Flag. So I'm going to take some of that and press that on top of the dark base that I've put on. So you'll start to see it change. So bring your head right back, that's it. And you'll start to see it move. See how it comes to life? It'll look lovely as well. You know, if it's not put over a dark base, it'll still shine really bright, but it looks twice as vibrant over a dark base like I've done. Okay, take my bigger blender and just soften the edge of the iridescent out. Ever so slightly, just soften your lines. Now with the smaller tapered brush, the blender brush, and some of the 430 dark brown shadow, just in the socket line, I'm going to darken that. So just look straight for me. Bring that right through. Basically to build up the socket line, just to make it look a little bit more deeper set. And then I feel we've lost some of the top color. So going back on ourselves, we're gonna take some of that beautiful warm color and just liven through the edge, just very gently. When you want to raise the, I suppose, the temperature of the tone at the top, your transitional tones, when you're putting this on, the brush, my technique with the brush is that I apply less pressure, considerably less pressure. I almost treat it like I'm applying this with a feather, because too much pressure and too much of the product will go on and it'll not feel like you're in control of it. So by a very, very soft brush stroke, you're able to build that back up again. Okay, just in the center of the eye, I want to make the color look a little bit more green. So I'm taking some of the two-way gel. It's not a glitter that I'm using. I just want it to be a little bit sticky in the center. So look at the floor, that's perfect. And just in the center of the eye, I want to put some of this and bring in another green shade. And this is just a pigment, and it's called PP07. So just wipe your brush to make sure it's not too damp. The dampness of the two-way gel will really hold on to this pigment. Sometimes when you're blending so many tones on top of each other and so many eyeshadows, you nearly absorb the natural moisture on the eyelids, and then you have more problems then with fallout from different eyeshadows. So this will just make sure that that doesn't happen. Okay, next with a wee precision or bullet style brush, I'm taking some of the black gel liner. I'm going to smoke out the bottom of the eye. So looking up for me, Catherine. Bring that across the whole way. Right from the inner tear duct. And blend that down. How far down you blend your black liner, it just depends on a couple of things. It depends how dramatic you want to be with your makeup, but it also depends on your structure of your face as well. If you have more space between under your eye to where your cheekbone is, especially whenever you're smiling, then you know that you can bring that down a little bit more. I try to always extend down a little bit further. Those of you who have a slightly smaller eye shape, so that it elongates and broadens the eye this direction. So I tend to bring it down a little bit underneath, as you may not have the same sort of spacing as Catherine above the eye. Some of the comments were coming in, saying, Catherine's makeup in the previous tutorial was great, but what do you do whenever you've got a smaller eye space to work with? Exactly the same thing. You may just use slightly smaller blending brushes, because there's many different sizes of blending brushes, but you do exactly the same thing, exactly the same placement, but you're just making it fit on a smaller area. So you can do the look, but you sometimes would find it a little bit easier to navigate your blending with smaller brushes, so that the dark color, for example, doesn't go too high, and you've more control. Once you've done your layer of black, take a clean brush and start to soften. So looking up for me, blend that through backwards and forwards until you see the edge of your liner just blur and weaken, allowing another color, transitional color, to happen at the edge of the black. I want to bring a little bit more of the green in to tie in with the whole theme, and I need it just to soften ever so slightly. Next, with a smaller blending brush, I'm going to take some of the OCC pigment we used on the top of the eye and blend that underneath. You need to use the very tip of this. Remember, whenever you're putting a pigment like this on top of your gel liner, it'll go really intense. So you only want to put a small amount through the edge of it. I don't want to take away all of the black. I still want it to remain smoky close to the waterline, but just clip in the edge of the black with the pigment to tie in the top of the eye, just like that. Then we're using PP07 with the same brush, and just right underneath, in line with the top, and I put a small bit of that just in the center underneath as well as the top. Make sure you're working your two sides so it softens a wee bit. Next, I'm going to add some mascara. Just build up a coat of mascara. I'm going to put some lashes on top as well. Go right in. Make sure you're right in at the root of the lash. Just before I put on my lashes, I'm going to take some very thin liner and bring that across the top, just so it makes it easier for the band of lashes to go onto a black band, and there's less work to do between each of the lashes if it doesn't go as close as I want to the lash line on the top. Okay, next I'm going to take some glue. I'm just going to leave the glue here and let it start to dry on the back of my hand. Some people prefer to glue both of their eyelashes and leave them sitting for a second. It just means that it's a little bit easier for them to attach whenever you go to put them onto the eyes. These are wispies from Ardell that I'm using. So I'm going to take one at a time. Now, you obviously, if you don't know the person's shape of eye that you're working on, or if it's indeed your own eye you're working on, measure it. Don't bring it the entire way across. It's quite uncomfortable if you bring it too far in. And if you need to cut, generally you try to cut from the outside corner. These are wispies, as I said, and they go from short to long to short, which is quite nice. It gives a nice sort of fluttery effect on the eye. They're a little bit longer in the center than you'd find with the demis. They're really nice. Look at the floor. Push. So as I'm going in, I'm pushing down and I'm trying to bring it in. Some people, the angle is too high and the lash will sit elevated, and it then creates almost like two lash lines in a sense. So try to keep it almost down, where you're pushing your own natural lashes down as you're putting it on, and press it in. Look straight. So just before I take my liquid liner and reline the top of the eye with, to get rid of the glue line, I'm taking another small amount of the two-way gel and just very gently in the center, nearly in the center of the previous center color. I'm putting it a little bit, and I'm using some emerald green. This is a very refined green glitter that I'm going to use, but it's the smallest amount that I'm going to put on. Just in that area. So I'm just going to hide my glue line by relining the top, going right from the inside corner across the whole way. This is the Makeup Studio liquid liner. Again, it's my favorite liner. Once you get into the hang of using liquid liner, I find it transfers less. I know some makeup artists love to use their cake liners and stuff, but I just love the sharpness and the finish that the liquid gives. Finally, lips. Makeup Studio number 14 pencil. I'm just going to line Catherine's lip line. You don't have to be too particular with the lip line. It doesn't have to be overly sharpened, as long as you make sure it's on the very edge. It's a great way if you find the lips maybe dip at the corners, just ever so slightly overline them, just to give a little bit more fullness to the lip shape. Look at your own lip shape and work out your proportions. Is your top line in proportion with the bottom line? And then I'm going to fill the lip line in, just sort of sketching. I don't mind if it's not a solid colour. I just want to give some base to the colour I'm about to put on. And to finish the lips, we're using some Velvet Nude from Makeup Studio. This colour is beautiful, gorgeous, rich nude tone. So there you have it. Green eyes for St. Patrick's Day, for your formals, for whatever you want. But it's showing you how you can use colour like greens, like blues, colours a lot of people tend to stay away from, and how you can make them wearable, and hope you like them. Any questions, please feel free to drop us a line underneath, and see you next time.